The first time I saw Rebecca Torres, she was standing in the center of the university quad with the autumn sun catching the highlights in her dark hair, and I swear the entire campus had stopped moving. Not literally, of course, but that's how it felt. She had this presence that made everything else fade into background noise. I was sitting on a bench pretending to read Faulkner from my American literature class. But really, I was just watching her laugh with a group of people I didn't recognize. Probably upperclassmen. Probably people who belonged in her orbit while I was just a sophomore who still got lost finding her classrooms. "You're staring," my roommate Maya said, dropping onto the bench beside me with enough force to make me jump. "I'm not," I lied, finally looking down at my book. "Please." "You've been on the same page for 10 minutes. Maya grabbed my coffee cup and took a sip without asking. "That's Rebecca Torres. She's a senior. Theater major. And before you even think about it, she's completely out of your league." I should have listened to Maya. I should have gone back to my book, finished my coffee, and forgotten about the girl with the megawatt smile who made my chest feel tight. But I didn't. Because right then Rebecca looked over, and for just a second her eyes met mine across the quad. She smiled. Not the big performative smile she'd been giving her friends. Something smaller. Something that felt like it was just for me. Then she looked away and I could breathe again. "Oh no," Maya said. "I know that look. That's your I'm about to make a terrible decision look." "I don't have a look." "You absolutely have a look. It's the same look you had before you decided to cut your own bangs freshman year. Before you adopted that plant that immediately died. Before you... Okay. I held up my hand. Point made. But I couldn't stop thinking about that smile. The thing about small liberal arts colleges is that you can't really avoid anyone. Within a week, I'd learned Rebecca's schedule without meaning to. She had acting studio on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10. She always bought the same thing at the coffee shop, oat milk latte with an extra shot and vanilla. She studied at the library most evenings, always at the table by the window on the 3rd floor. I wasn't stalking her. I was just aware of her. The way you're aware of the sun even when you're not looking directly at it. Maya said I was being ridiculous. You haven't even talked to her. You're pining over someone you've literally never had a conversation with. She was right, of course. But then everything changed on a Wednesday night in October. I was working my shift at the campus art gallery, which was usually the most boring job on campus. My responsibilities consisted of sitting at the front desk, making sure no one touched the sculptures and trying not to fall asleep. That night, I was reading Jane Eyre and definitely not doing my actual homework when the door opened. Rebecca walked in. And I nearly knocked over my water bottle. She was wearing a long camel coat and a burgundy scarf, her hair slightly damp from the rain that had started falling outside. She looked like she'd stepped out of a movie. And she was walking directly toward my desk. "Hi," she said, and her voice was warmer than I'd imagined. Lower. "I know this is random, but is the gallery open late tonight? I'm supposed to meet someone here for a project and I'm completely turned around." I stared at her. Actually stared, my brain completely empty of words. She tilted her head slightly, waiting. Still smiling that small smile. "Yes, I finally managed. We're open until 9 on Wednesdays." "Perfect." She leaned against the desk and I caught a hint of her perfume. Something citrusy and expensive. "I'm Rebecca, by the way." "I know," I blurted out, then immediately wanted to sink through the floor. "I mean, I've seen you around. On campus. Small school and everything, right?" Her smile grew wider, more amused. "And you are?" Samantha, Sam is fine." "Sam," she said my name like she was trying it out. "I like it." "Well, Sam, I'm going to look around while I wait. But maybe you can help me with something?" "Sure, of course, anything?" I was absolutely not playing it cool. "I need to write about one of the pieces in here for my arts and society class. I'm completely out of my depth with visual art. What would you recommend?" I should have given her the easy answer. The faculty favorite in the main room, the one with the interpretation placard that basically wrote the essay for you. Instead, I found myself standing up and saying, "Follow me." I led her to the smallest gallery, the one most people walked right past. There was a series of photographs by a local artist, black and white images of empty chairs in various locations around the city. Diners, park benches, bus stops. Simple, but something about them always made me feel hollow and full at the same time. These, I said softly, they're about absence. About the people who aren't there anymore. Every chair is waiting for someone. Rebecca stepped closer to the photographs, quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice had changed. Softer and more genuine. That's beautiful. And heartbreaking. Yeah, I agreed. Art usually is. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I felt that same electric charge from the quad. You really love this stuff, don't you? Art, I'm studying art history. So, yes. I love it. I paused, then decided to be brave. Most people think it's impractical. Most people are boring. She said it matter-of-factly, turning back to the photographs. Tell me more. About these. About why you chose them. So I did. I talked about negative space and emotional resonance and the way the photographer used light. I talked way too much probably, but Rebecca listened like every word mattered. She asked questions. Real questions. Not just polite ones. We were still talking when her project partner arrived 20 minutes later, and I watched something shift in Rebecca's expression. A wall coming up. She became performative again, theatrical. The person I'd been talking to disappeared behind the person everyone else saw. Thanks for your help, Sam, she said, but her voice was different now. Brighter, shallower. You're a lifesaver. No problem, I managed, trying not to show my disappointment. She left with her partner, but at the door she glanced back. Just for a second. And there it was again, that small smile. The real one. After that night, things shifted. Not dramatically. We didn't suddenly become best friends. But Rebecca started showing up at the gallery more often. Just browsing, she'd say. Needed a break from rehearsal. We'd talk. About art, about her plays, about everything and nothing. I learned that she was from Los Angeles, that she had 2 younger brothers, that she'd wanted to be an actor since she was 6 years old. She learned that I was from a small town in Vermont, that I was terrified of failure, that I'd never quite felt like I fit anywhere until I found art. You're different than I expected, she told me one evening in late October. We were sitting on the gallery floor in front of a massive abstract painting, our backs against the wall. Different how? Quieter. But not in a shy way. More like you're always watching, always thinking. She turned to look at me. It's nice. Most people just talk and never actually say anything. You're not what I expected either, I admitted. No? She sounded genuinely curious. Everyone sees this confident, charismatic person. Which you are. But you're also... I struggled for the right words. You're also scared. Underneath it all. She was quiet for a long moment. Most people don't notice that. Maybe most people aren't paying attention, and you are? Paying attention? My heart was hammering. To you? Yes, the air between us felt charged, dangerous. Rebecca looked away first. I should go. I have an early class tomorrow. She always did that. Pulled away right when things got too real. November arrived with freezing rain, and the kind of gray skies that made you forget the sun existed. I was in my dorm room trying to write an essay about Caravaggio that was due in 6 hours. When Maya burst through the door. You need to see this, she said. Shoving her phone in my face. It was the campus theater department's Instagram page. A promotional photo for their upcoming production of Angels in America. And there, in the center of the image, was Rebecca. She looked stunning, ethereal, completely in her element. She's playing Harper, Maya said. Opening night is in 2 weeks. Are you going to go? I don't know, maybe. Sam, you've been hung up on this girl for 2 months. Either make a move or move on. It's not that simple. It literally is. Maya sat down on my bed. Look, I know you're scared. But you're going to regret it if you don't at least try. I did go to opening night. I sat in the back row with Maya, my palms sweating, watching Rebecca transform into someone else entirely on stage. She was magnificent. Vulnerable and fierce and completely captivating. When she delivered her final monologue, I felt tears on my cheeks after the show. There was a reception in the theater lobby. I almost left without saying anything, but Maya physically pushed me toward the crowd of people surrounding Rebecca. Sam. Rebecca's face lit up when she saw me. She excused herself from her conversation and crossed over to me. You came. You were incredible, I said honestly. I mean it. I don't even have words. That might be the best compliment I've ever gotten in. You always have words. She looked genuinely pleased. Are you staying? We're all going to the pub after. Oh, I don't want to intrude on your celebration. You wouldn't be. She reached out and touched my arm just briefly. Stay, please. So I stayed. I ended up squished into a booth at the campus pub with Rebecca and half the cast, nursing a beer I didn't really want and trying not to stare at Rebecca, who was radiant with post-show adrenaline. Around midnight, most of the group had dispersed. Rebecca and I were the last ones left, sitting across from each other in the now empty booth. Can I tell you a secret? She asked, her eyes a little glassy from champagne. Of course. I was terrified you wouldn't come tonight. I kept looking for you in the audience, and when I finally spotted you, I almost forgot my lines. She laughed softly. Ridiculous, right? Why would that be ridiculous? Because you're this person who's somehow become really important to me, and I have no idea how that happened. She was looking at me intensely now. When did that happen, Sam? My heart was racing. I think it happened the first time you walked into the gallery. For me too. The quad, actually. When I saw you reading on that bench. She shook her head. I told myself I was imagining it. The way you looked at me? How did I look at you? Like you actually saw me. Not the performance, me. We sat there, the confession hanging between us. Then Rebecca's phone buzzed, breaking the moment. She glanced at it and sighed. My roommate. Wondering where I am. She stood up, a bit unsteady. I should go. I walked her back to her dorm, neither of us saying much. At her building's entrance, she turned to me. Thank you for coming tonight. It meant everything. Rebecca, I know, she said softly. I know, Sam, but I need to figure some things out first. Can you give me time? I nodded, not trusting my voice. She squeezed my hand once, then disappeared inside. The next 2 weeks were torture. Rebecca stopped coming to the gallery. She didn't text. When I saw her on campus, she was always surrounded by people, always just out of reach. I tried to give her space. I tried to focus on my classes, my work, anything else. But Maya was right. I was completely gone for her. Then on a freezing December night, there was a knock on my dorm room door. I opened it to find Rebecca standing there in sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, her hair in a messy bun. No makeup, no performance. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside wordlessly. She walked into my room, looking around like she was seeing it for the first time, even though she'd been there before. Then she turned to face me. I'm scared, she said bluntly. I'm terrified, actually. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of how I feel when I'm around you. She wrapped her arms around herself. I've spent my whole life being what people expected. The perfect daughter. The star student. The talented actor. And then you looked at me that day in the quad, and suddenly I wanted to be someone else. Someone real. I took a step closer. You are real, Rebecca. Not always. Not with most people. Her eyes were shining with unshed tears. But with you, I can't hide. You see right through me, and it's terrifying and wonderful, and I don't know what to do with it. You don't have to do anything, I said gently. We can just be, no expectations. No performance. I've never done that before. Just been. Then let's figure it out together. She looked at me for a long moment, and I could see her making the decision. Choosing to be brave. I want to kiss you, she whispered. I've wanted to kiss you since that first night in the gallery. Then kiss me. She closed the distance between us. And when her lips met mine, it felt like every cliche I'd ever rolled my eyes at. Fireworks, electricity, coming home. All of it, all at once. We kissed until we were breathless, until my back was against the door and her hands were in my hair. When we finally pulled apart, we were both laughing. Wow, she said. Yeah, I agreed. Wow, she rested her forehead against mine. I'm still scared. Me too. But maybe that's okay? Maybe it's perfect. Dating Rebecca was nothing like I'd imagined. She wasn't the untouchable star I'd built up in my head. She was messy and insecure and sometimes forgot to text back for hours. She cried during sad movies and sang off-key in the shower. She was brilliant and flawed and so real. We kept things quiet at first. Not because either of us was ashamed, but because Rebecca needed time to figure out how to be in a relationship without performing it. We had late-night conversations in my dorm room, quiet dinners at restaurants off campus, long walks through the city. "I think I've been running from this part of myself for a long time," she told me one night. We were lying in her bed, tangled together, her head on my chest. "I dated guys in high school because that's what everyone did. But it never felt right. I thought something was wrong with me." "There's nothing wrong with you," I said firmly. "I know that now. Or I'm starting to." She tilted her head to look up at me. "You make me feel brave, Sam. You were always brave. You just needed someone to remind you." By the time winter break arrived, we'd been together for 3 weeks. 3 weeks that felt like 3 years. We were already finishing each other's sentences, already had inside jokes and shared routines. The night before we both left for break, Rebecca took me to the gallery after hours. She'd somehow gotten the keys from the faculty advisor. "I wanted to do this properly," she said, leading me to the room with the photographs that had started everything. That first night, I was pretending to need help with a project. I didn't have a project. I just wanted an excuse to talk to you. "I know," I admitted. "You were a terrible liar." She laughed. "I really was, wasn't I?" She turned serious then. "Sam, these last few weeks have been the happiest I've been in. Maybe ever. You make me want to be honest. Not just with you, but with everyone. With myself." "You don't have to rush anything," I said. "We can take this at whatever pace you need." That's the thing. I don't want to wait anymore. She took both my hands. "I want people to know. I want to tell my family over break. I want to come back in January and be openly, completely yours. If you'll have me." I pulled her close, kissing her softly. "I'll have you always." Winter break was harder than I expected. Rebecca and I texted constantly, but it wasn't the same as having her close. She sent me photos of Los Angeles sunsets and her brothers making fun of her. I sent her pictures of Vermont snow and my mom's terrible cooking. 3 days before Christmas, she called me at 2 a.m. sobbing. "What happened?" I asked, instantly awake and terrified. "I told them," she said through her tears. "I told my parents about you. About us." My heart sank. "And my dad. He didn't take it well. He said it was a phase. That I was confused." My mom just cried. She let out a shaky breath. "But my brothers were amazing. They told our parents to stop being ashholes. We've been fighting for hours. I'm so sorry, Rebecca. I'm so sorry." "Don't be. Don't be." "I'm not." Her voice steadied. "It hurts. It hurts so much. But I also feel free, like I've been holding my breath for years and I can finally exhale." "What did you tell them?" "About me?" "The truth. That you're brilliant and kind and you see me in a way no one else does. That you make me want to be braver. That I'm falling in love with you." My breath caught. We hadn't said those words yet. "Sam? You still there?" "I'm falling in love with you too," I whispered. "I think I have been since the quad." She laughed through her tears. "Same, definitely same." We talked for another hour until her voice got sleepy and soft. Before we hung up, she said, "Thank you for choosing me back. Out of everyone who looked at me, you're the one who really saw me. And you chose me anyway." "There was never a choice," I told her. "It was always going to be you." January came with fresh snow and new possibilities. Rebecca came back to campus different. Lighter somehow. She cut her hair shorter, wore less makeup, carried herself with a new kind of confidence. We walked across campus holding hands that first day back, and I watched her face as people noticed. Some stared. Some smiled. She held her head high through all of it. "How does it feel?" I asked. "Scary," she admitted. "But good. Really good." Her relationship with her parents was still complicated. They were trying, she said, but it would take time. In the meantime, she'd found a new family in the campus LGBTQ+ group. in her theater friends who'd always known, in Maya who'd become fiercely protective of both of us. We spent the spring semester building something real. Not the fairy tale I'd imagined from a distance, but something better. Messier and more complicated and infinitely more valuable. There were hard moments. Rebecca had panic attacks before performances, worrying about what her parents would think if they saw. I struggled with anxiety about graduation looming, about the future, about whether I was enough for someone like her, but there were more good moments than hard ones. Late-night rehearsal sessions where I watched her work. Art gallery exhibitions where she pretended to understand my rambling explanations. Lazy Sunday mornings in bed. Stolen kisses between classes. The ordinary magic of being known and choosing to stay. The night of Rebecca's senior showcase. I sat in the same seat I'd occupied for Angels in America. But this time, I wasn't hiding in the back. I was front row center where she'd saved me a seat. She performed a monologue she'd written herself. About a girl who spent her whole life performing. Until she met someone who taught her that the most courageous thing she could do was be honest. She looked directly at me as she delivered the final lines. She had everyone's eyes. But she chose mine. And in choosing to be seen, really seen, she finally learned to see herself. The audience erupted in applause. I was crying, absolutely sobbing, and I didn't care who saw. Afterward, in the chaos of the reception, Rebecca found me. She was still in her costume, her makeup running slightly from her own tears. "Well?" she asked. "What did you think?" "I think you're going to change the world," I said honestly. "And I think I'm the luckiest person alive." She kissed me right there in front of everyone. Her professors, her classmates, the university president. She kissed me like I was the only person in the room. When we finally pulled apart, she was grinning. "I have something to tell you." "What?" "I got into grad school, Yale, for acting." My heart swelled with pride even as it started to break. Yale, that was in Connecticut. Hours away from where I'd be spending my senior year, she saw my face and took my hands. "Hey, we'll figure it out." Long distance, visits, whatever it takes. "Whatever it takes," I echoed, meaning it. "Because you're it for me, Sam. You're the one who saw me when I was still learning to see myself. And I'm not letting that go." Rebecca graduated in May with honors and a standing ovation. I watched from the crowd, bursting with pride. Her parents had come, sitting stiffly in their seats, but present nonetheless. It was progress. That summer, we had 2 months together before she had to leave for New Haven. We spent them making memories. Road trips to the coast. Art museums in Boston. Quiet nights cooking dinner in her apartment. Learning each other's bodies, each other's hearts. The night before she left, we lay on a blanket in the quad where I'd first seen her, looking up at the stars. "Do you remember what you said to me?" Rebecca asked. "That first night in the gallery about the photographs? Art is beautiful and heartbreaking." "Yeah," she rolled onto her side to face me. "I think that's what love is too. Beautiful and heartbreaking and worth it, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." She traced my face with her fingertips. "You changed my life, Sam. You know that, right?" "You changed mine too. Good." She smiled that smile, the real one, the one that was just for me. "Then we're even." Long distance was brutal. There were late-night video calls where we fell asleep watching each other. Care packages filled with inside jokes. Weekends where we'd meet halfway just to spend a few hours together. But there were also fights. About time and distance and fear. About her new classmates who didn't understand why she'd be committed to someone still in undergrad. About my insecurities that she'd outgrow me. One particularly bad fight in November almost broke us. Rebecca was stressed about a showcase, I was drowning in senior thesis work, and everything came spilling out. "Maybe this is too hard," she said, her voice cracking through the phone. "Maybe we're kidding ourselves. Is that what you want?" I asked, my heart in my throat. "To give up?" "No, God, no." "But I don't know how to do this, Sam, how to be apart from you and still be us." "We figure it out," I said firmly. "The same way we figured out everything else, together." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I love you. I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too. And I'm not giving up on us." Not ever. We hung on. Through the holidays apart. Through spring semester stress. Through all of it, we hung on. Rebecca came back for my graduation in May. She sat in the audience with Maya and my parents, cheering louder than anyone when I walked across the stage. That night, we went back to the gallery one last time. It was closing permanently. The college was renovating the space. Our place, where everything started, would soon be gone. "It's okay," Rebecca said, reading my mind. "We don't need this place anymore. We carry it with us." She pulled a small box from her pocket. Inside was a simple silver bracelet. "It's not an engagement ring," she said quickly. "We're too young for that. But it's a promise that no matter where we go, no matter what happens, you'll always be the one who saw me first. The one who chose me when everyone else was just watching." I put on the bracelet with shaking hands. "And you'll always be the one who chose me back, who taught me that being seen isn't scary. It's everything." We kissed in that empty gallery surrounded by bare walls and memories. And I knew with absolute certainty that this was just the beginning. The engagement lasted 6 months. We would have gotten married sooner, but Rebecca's mother insisted she needed time to plan. And after years of slowly rebuilding their relationship, Rebecca wasn't about to deny her this. "She's trying," Rebecca said one night as we addressed wedding invitations in our tiny Brooklyn apartment. "In her way, she's really trying." I looked at the invitation in my hand. Expensive cream cardstock with our names embossed in gold. "Rebecca Maria Torres and Samantha Jill Morrison request the honor of your presence." "You're a dad?" I asked carefully. It was always a delicate subject. Rebecca's pen paused over the envelope she was writing. "He RSVPDs." Both of them did. She looked up at me, and I could see the vulnerability there even after all these years. "He's not going to walk me down the aisle or give some tearful speech, but he'll be there." "It's something." "It's more than something," I said, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "It's huge." She squeezed back. "Mom asked if she could help me get ready that morning. Said she wants to be there for the bride's preparations or whatever." Rebecca's voice cracked slightly. 5 years ago, she couldn't even look at me. Now she wants to button my dress. "People can't surprise you." "You surprised me," she said softly. "Every single day, you surprise me." We got married on a September afternoon in Central Park. Small ceremony, just 60 people. Maya was my maid of honor, wearing a dress she complained about for months but looked stunning in. Rebecca's brother Miguel stood as her man of honor, having appointed himself her fierce protector the moment she'd come out. I'll never forget the moment. Rebecca appeared at the end of the aisle. She was wearing a simple silk dress, her short hair styled back, minimal makeup. She looked like herself. Completely, authentically herself, and she was looking at me like I was the only person in the world. We'd written our own vows. Mine were carefully crafted, revised a dozen times, memorized perfectly. But when I opened my mouth to speak, everything I planned flew out of my head. "Rebecca," I started, my voice shaking. 7 years ago, you walked into a gallery looking for help with a project you didn't have. And I fell for you so hard I forgot how to form complete sentences. The crowd laughed softly. Rebecca's eyes were already shining with tears. "You taught me that being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about being terrified and choosing to show up anyway. You showed up for me, for us, even when it was hard. Even when your world was falling apart. You chose honesty over comfort. You chose love over fear." I had to stop and breathe, overwhelmed by the enormity of the moment. "I promise to keep choosing you. Every day in every way. I promise to see you, really see you, for the rest of my life. And I promise to let you see me even when I want to hide. Especially then." Rebecca was full on crying now, not caring that her minimal makeup was running. When it was her turn, she pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from somewhere in her dress. "I wrote these at 3:00 last night," she said, laughing through her tears. "Because Sam knows I'm a disaster without a script." More laughter. "Sam, you once told me that I was brave for coming out, for choosing to be myself. But the truth is, I wasn't brave until I met you. I was just good at performing courage. You showed me what real bravery looks like. It looks like a sophomore sitting on a bench, reading Faulkner. Brave enough to meet a stranger's eyes and not look away." She folded the paper, abandoning her script. "You saw through every wall I'd built, every mask I'd worn. And instead of running away from the messy, scared person underneath, you stayed. You chose me at my most vulnerable. And you've been choosing me ever since. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper, but in the silence of the park, everyone could hear. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that choice. I will love you in the spotlight and in the quiet moments. I will hold your hand through every gallery opening and every closing. I will be your home, and you will be mine. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd when the officiant pronounced us married. Rebecca grabbed my face and kissed me so thoroughly that Miguel had to clear his throat and remind us we had an audience. Sorry. Not sorry, Rebecca said, grinning against my lips at the reception afterward. Held at a small restaurant in the West Village. Rebecca's mother approached me while Rebecca was dancing with Miguel. Samantha, Mrs. Torres said formally. She was a small woman, elegant, with the same dark eyes as her daughter. May I speak with you? My heart started racing. In 7 years, Mrs. Torres and I had never been alone together, of course. She led me to a quiet corner away from the music and laughter. For a long moment, she just looked at me and I fought the urge to fidget. I owe you an apology, she finally said. Several, actually. I started to protest, but she held up her hand. Please, let me say this. She took a breath. When Rebecca told us about you, about who she really was, I failed her. I let my fear and my expectations blind me to what was right in front of me, my daughter. Being honest for the first time in her life. Being brave. And I rejected that gift. Tears were streaming down her face now, and I fumbled in my purse for tissues. Mrs. Torres, Elena, please call me Elena. She took the tissue gratefully. I watched my daughter dim her light for years, trying to be what we wanted. What she thought the world wanted. She was miserable, and I told myself it was just the stress of school, of pursuing acting. But it wasn't, it was hiding. She looked past me to where Rebecca was now dancing with Maya, both of them laughing at something. Look at her now. Look at how she glows. She's the person she was always meant to be. Elena turned back to me. And that's because of you. You loved her enough to let her be real. To demand that she be real. Elena, I didn't, you did. She took my hands in hers. Thank you for loving my daughter. Thank you for being patient with our family. And thank you for showing me that the worst thing I could do as a mother wasn't having a gay daughter. It was losing her because I couldn't accept the truth. I was crying now too. She never stopped loving you. Even when it hurt. She never gave up on you. I know. She's stronger than I ever was. Elena pulled me into a hug. Welcome to our family, Mia, officially. When Rebecca found us a few minutes later, both of us tear-stained and laughing, she looked between us with wide eyes. Should I be worried? Your mother and I are bonding, I said. That's what I'm afraid of, Rebecca joked, but she was smiling. She wrapped her arms around both of us. My two favorite people getting along. This is everything. The thing about marriage that no one tells you is that the wedding is the easy part. It's the day-to-day afterward that tests you. The ordinary moments. The unglamorous reality of building a life together. Our first year of marriage was harder than I expected. We'd been together for 7 years before we got married, had lived together for 3. I thought we knew each other completely. I was wrong. Rebecca got cast in an off-Broadway production that required evening rehearsals and weekend performances. My first major solo exhibition was scheduled for the same month. We were both stressed, both stretched thin, both trying to support each other while drowning in our own anxiety. One night in November, about 2 months into her show's run, everything came to a head. I had a terrible day. A major buyer had backed out of purchasing 3 of my pieces. My gallery had hinted that they might not renew my contract, and I'd spilled coffee all over my laptop. Destroying weeks of work, I came home to an empty apartment. Again, Rebecca was at the theater. Again, I knew it wasn't fair to be angry. This was her job. This was what she'd worked for her whole life. But I was angry anyway. Angry and lonely and tired of feeling like I came second to her career. When she finally got home at midnight, I was sitting in the dark, still in my work clothes. Hey, babe, she said cheerfully, turning on the light. Sorry I'm late. We ran long because she stopped when she saw my face. What's wrong? Nothing. Nothing. Sam, don't do that. Tell me what's wrong. And I just exploded. What's wrong is that I haven't seen you in 3 days. What's wrong is that I had the worst day of my professional life and you weren't here. What's wrong is that I feel like I'm living alone. Rebecca's face fell. I'm sorry. The show, it's always the show. I stood up, pacing. The show, the rehearsals, the cast dinners, the promotional events. I'm happy for you, I am. But I'm also drowning over here, and you're not around to throw me a life preserver. That's not fair, Rebecca said, her voice getting tight. You knew what you were signing up for when you married an actor. This is my career, and what about mine? I have a career too, Rebecca. One that's currently falling apart, but sure, let's talk about your show. Oh, so now we're keeping score? Whose career is more important? I didn't say that. You implied it. She threw her bag on the couch. I'm sorry your day was bad. I'm sorry I wasn't here. But I can't be in 2 places at once, Sam. I can't be at the theater and here holding your hand. I don't need you to hold my hand. I need you to be present in this marriage. The words hung between us, sharp and cutting. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. I am present. I'm here every moment I can be. Physically, maybe. But emotionally? Rebecca, when was the last time we had a real conversation? When was the last time you asked about my work, my life? She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. Because we both knew I was right. I'm trying, she finally said, her voice small. I'm trying so hard to make this work. To show us everything. But I feel like I'm failing at all of it. The fight went out of me. I crossed to her and pulled her into my arms. She collapsed against me, sobbing. I'm sorry, I whispered into her hair. I'm sorry, I exploded. I'm just scared. Of what? That we're growing apart. That we want different things. That love isn't enough. She pulled back to look at me, her face blotchy and wet. Love is enough. It has to be. But maybe we need help figuring out how to make it work. What do you mean? Therapy. Couples counseling. Whatever you want to call it. She wiped her eyes. We promised to keep choosing each other. But I think we need help remembering how. We started seeing Dr. Patricia Chen every Thursday at 6 p.m. It was the only time that worked with both our schedules. Which Dr. Chen pointed out was part of the problem. You're both so focused on your individual careers that you've forgotten to make your relationship a priority. She said during our 3rd session. That's not true, Rebecca protested. Sam is my priority. Then when was the last time you had a date night? Silence. When was the last time you cooked dinner together? Watched a movie? Had sex? More silence. Dr. Chen leaned back in her chair. You're roommates who love each other. But you're not behaving like partners. And if you don't actively work to change that, you're going to wake up one day and realize you're strangers. It was harsh, but it was what we needed to hear. We started small. Monday nights became sacred. No work, no phones, just us. We'd cook dinner together badly, usually, but together. We'd talk. Really talk. About our days, our fears, our dreams. We implemented a 10-minute check-in every morning over coffee. No matter how busy we were, we'd give each other 10 minutes of undivided attention. We went on dates. Real dates where we dressed up and pretended we were trying to impress each other. Where we held hands across the table and remembered why we'd fallen in love in the first place. It wasn't a magic fix. There were still hard days, still fights, still moments where I wondered if we were going to make it. But slowly, gradually, we found our rhythm again. Rebecca's show closed in March and she was devastated. The reviews had been mixed, and despite her brilliant performance, the production hadn't found its audience. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought, she said one night, curled up on our couch with a glass of wine. Maybe I peaked in college. Don't say that. You're incredible. Then why can't I book anything decent? Why am I still auditioning for toothpaste commercials and regional theater productions in Pennsylvania? I didn't have an answer. The acting world was brutal and talent wasn't always enough. What if I gave up? She said quietly. What if I just stopped trying? Is that what you want? She was quiet for a long time. No, but I'm tired, Sam. I'm so tired of the rejection, the uncertainty. A feeling like I'm always one bad audition away from failure. Then don't give up. But maybe pivot? She looked at me questioningly. You love teaching, I said. You light up when you're working with students. What if you taught while you auditioned? Got a steady job, took the pressure off. You think I should teach? I think you should do whatever makes you happy. And I think happiness isn't all or nothing. You can teach and act. You can have stability and still chase your dreams. She considered this, swirling her wine. NYU has a theater program. I could look into adjunct physicians. You could. It feels like giving up, though. It's not giving up. It's growing up. There's a difference. 3 months later, Rebecca was teaching 2 classes at NYU, Introduction to Acting and Contemporary Theater. She was also auditioning regularly, but with less desperation. This steady paycheck had taken the edge off her anxiety. I actually love it, she admitted one night. Teaching, watching students discover themselves through performance. It's different than being on stage, but it's just as fulfilling. You're making a difference in their lives, I said. The way professors made a difference in yours. Yeah, she smiled. Yeah, I really am. Meanwhile, my own career was stabilizing. The gallery had renewed my contract and I'd started teaching photography workshops on weekends. We were finding balance. Finally, then in June, Rebecca came home with an envelope. Open it, she said, bouncing on her heels like a kid on Christmas morning. Inside was a script. The Glass Menagerie at Lincoln Center. A major production. They want me to audition for Lavra, Rebecca said, barely able to contain her excitement. Lincoln Center, Sam. This is everything. I pulled her into a hug. You're going to nail it. I might not get it. You're going to nail it, I repeated firmly. She did nail it. The audition, the callback, the chemistry read. 6 weeks later, she signed the contract. I can't believe this is real, she said, staring at the paperwork. Believe it. You earned this. The production was scheduled to run for 6 months starting in September. Rebecca was ecstatic. And I was happy for her, truly, but there was also a small selfish part of me that worried. Worried about the schedule, the demands, the pressure. Worried about losing her to her career again. Dr. Chun helped us develop strategies. Communication plans. Scheduled time together. Boundaries around work discussions. This is a marathon, not a sprint, she reminded us. You've built a strong foundation. Trust it. The show opened to rave reviews. Rebecca was luminous as Lovra, fragile and fierce simultaneously. The critics loved her. Audiences loved her. She was finally getting the recognition she deserved, but with success came new challenges. Suddenly everyone wanted a piece of her. Interviews, panel discussions, industry events. She was working 6 days a week, sometimes 7. I tried to be supportive. I went to the show every few weeks, sat in the audience, and watched my wife shine. I attended industry parties where I didn't know anyone. I smiled through countless conversations where I was introduced as Rebecca's wife, with no mention of my own work. One night in December, I snapped. We were at a holiday party thrown by the theater company. I was standing alone in a corner, nursing a drink, watching Rebecca charm a group of producers. A man I didn't recognize approached me. You're with Rebecca Torres, right? I'm her wife, I corrected. Right. Must be exciting being married to a rising star. Mm-hmm. What do you do? I'm a photographer. Fine art mostly. I've had several. Oh, interesting, he said in a tone that meant it wasn't interesting at all. Excuse me, I see someone I need to talk to. He walked away mid-sentence, leaving me standing there feeling invisible. I left the party without telling Rebecca. Just grabbed my coat and walked out into the freezing December night. I made it 3 blocks before she caught up with me. Sam, wait. She was in her dress and heels, no coat, running down the sidewalk. What happened? Why did you leave? I couldn't do it anymore. Do what? Stand there being invisible. Being Rebecca's wife with no identity of my own. She looked stricken. You're not invisible. To your world, I am. Do you know how many people at that party asked about my work? 0. Do you know how many times I've been introduced as a photographer? Never. It's always, this is Sam, Rebecca's wife, end of sentence. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that's the problem, Rebecca. You don't realize. You're so caught up in your success, which you deserve, which I'm happy about, but you don't see that I'm disappearing. She was shivering now, tears freezing on her cheeks. Tell me what to do. Tell me how to fix this. I don't know, I admitted. I don't know if you can. We stood there on that freezing sidewalk and I saw real fear in her eyes. Fear that we were breaking. That this time love might not be enough. Please don't give up on us, she whispered. Please, Sam, I'll do better. I'll be better. It's not about being better. It's about being present. About remembering that I'm not an accessory to your life. I'm a person with my own dreams and goals and needs. I know that. God, I know that. Do you though? Because it doesn't feel like it. She grabbed my hands. What if I turned down the extension? I stared at her. What extension? They offered to extend the run another 6 months. I haven't given them an answer yet. Rebecca, you can't turn that down. This is your career. And you're my life. You're more important than any show. I pulled my hands away. Don't do that. Don't make me the reason you give up an opportunity. I'll resent you for it and you'll resent me. Then what do we do? I didn't have an answer. So I just shook my head and started walking toward home. Rebecca followed in silence. We didn't talk about it that night. Or the next day. We moved around each other carefully, politely. Like strangers sharing space. On the third day, I came home to find Rebecca sitting at our kitchen table with a notebook. I've been thinking, she said. About everything you said. And I made a list. She turned the notebook toward me. On the page was a detailed schedule, color-coded and annotated. Orange is my work time. Blue is your work time. Green is us time sacred, non-negotiable. Purple is individual time. We each need space to be ourselves. She looked up at me nervously. I also talked to my publicist. From now on, I'm introducing you as my wife, the photographer Sam Morrison, and I'm turning down events that don't allow +1s. Or where you don't want to go. I stared at the schedule, feeling my throat tighten. And I'm taking the extension, she continued. Because you're right. I can't give up my career and you can't ask me to. But I'm also setting boundaries. No Sunday performances. That's our day. And I'm cutting back on extra promotional stuff. The work is enough. I don't need to be at every party, Rebecca. I also called around and found 3 galleries that might be interested in your work. I made you appointments to show them your portfolio. She was talking fast now, nervous. And I registered you for that photography workshop in Iceland you've been talking about. The one in February. I know it's during my show, but you should go. You should invest in your dreams too. I sat down heavily. You did all this in 3 days? I almost lost you on that sidewalk. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. All I could think about was how you looked at me, like you didn't recognize me anymore. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't want to be the person who makes you feel invisible. I want to be the person who sees you, always. I reached across the table and took her hand. I don't want to hold you back. You're not. You never have been. But I do need to make space for both of us to shine. And I haven't been doing that. I haven't been fair either. I know what your career demands. I shouldn't have expected you to read my mind about how I was feeling. You shouldn't have to tell me to treat you like a priority. That should be automatic. She squeezed my hand. We're supposed to be a team, partners, equals. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that. We both did. We sat there for a while, just holding hands across the table. Then Rebecca stood and pulled me into her arms. I choose you, she whispered into my hair. Every single day, in every single way, I choose you. I'm sorry, I've been terrible at showing it. I choose you too, I whispered back. Even when it's hard. Especially then. We were learning. Slowly, painfully, but learning.